Welcome to Yeukai Business Show, UK's premier business show where we feature business thought leaders, high achievers, and industry experts. Today's episode is brought to you by World Outsourcing Solutions Limited, a company that specializes in helping executive business owners with virtual assistant services and business growth systems. Here's your host, Yeukai Ketchadori.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to World Outsourcing Solutions podcast. Today's interview is sponsored by World Outsourcing Solutions, where we specialize in helping business owners with outsourcing and other business important topics. In today's podcast, I have a very special guest, Rachel, and I've entitled the interview for today, How to Get Started with a Millennial Business Consultant, which really is something which I think many people will find very important. And today is Rachel, who is I think I'm going to let Rachel talk to us about her journey into starting such an organization or such a business, and also how she's helping a whole lot of people over there in the US. Welcome to the call, Rachel.
Thank you so much for having me.
Incredible. Now, Rachel is a well-known expert on the subject of millennial business consulting and has graciously consented to do this interview to share her extensive knowledge and experience that every business owner may need. Now, to get us started, Rachel, I'm sure our listeners would want to know more about your journey. How did you get started?
Oh, it actually goes back to my childhood, where when I was a little girl, I wanted to be an entrepreneur. By the age of 11, I actually started 4 businesses. And then kind of the harsh reality of the world set in. And, I started getting really afraid of what it actually took to be a business owner. So I decided to go down a much more traditional career path. And I earned my bachelor's degree in psychology and then my master's degree in counseling, and began working as a therapist for a few years. And during that time, I just started to feel really just miserable and unhappy. I would wake up in the middle of the night from work-related nightmares. I would just be sick with kind of a knot in my stomach as I went to work every day. And I really knew that I should go off and start my own business, really get back to my roots, that I really wanted to help people in kind of the unique way that I speak. But I was so afraid of just not having security, not having a safety net, not having, an employer-sponsored retirement plan or health insurance in the United States. So eventually my misery just became so difficult to work with that my boss fired me. And it was really probably the biggest blessing. And I decided to use that as really fuel for starting my business and helping millennials in their careers or launching their businesses.
Right. I like the journey that you took, from a very young age. You knew that you had to do your business, but because of the pressures, around you, you just had to go through the traditional, and you had to go through all this discomfort to actually go back to what you initially wanted to. And it's like many business owners at this stage, So would you share with us, other than the discomfort and that you got fired, what had to happen, before you made up your mind to start your own business?
Yeah, I really think that one of the common threads that kept coming up in my life at that point was a lot of my clients and a lot of my friends were seeking me out for advice. And I know when I work with a lot of business owners, one of the probably the biggest thing that they struggle with is, well, I don't know what value I can offer people, or I don't know what makes me unique. And I started to realize that everyone had already been telling me in the world. So one day I was sitting down with my fiance, and he was like, well, what kind of business would you want to start? And I just started rambling and listing out all of the characteristics of what my kind of dream job would look like. I wanted flexibility with my time. I wanted freedom to choose who I worked with. I wanted to help people make more money and find fulfillment and define success for themselves. And, I kind of reverse engineered my coaching packages from that.
Right. Right, incredible. I like that you had to look inside you, and somebody assisted you to bring that out of you, which I think many people who are in the shoes you were back then sort of need really to give them that push to go ahead and start their
Hmm.
businesses. So
Absolutely.
once you discover that this is what you were going to do, you now know about your coaching business, that this is what you're providing. Were there any roadblocks that you faced along the way before you actually launched the business?
Yeah, I was what you could call a multi-passionate millennial. And that's usually one of the biggest email inquiries I get is I have so many passions, I don't know where to start.
Right,
And so I took about 2 months where I just sat down and wrote and wrote and wrote on a lot of different topics, on helping people find their job, on helping people launch their business, on helping people manage their time and their finances. And I wrote this probably about 200-page curriculum, and then I started to design it and package it. And all during this time, obviously, as most business owners, when first starting out, I didn't have any money coming in. So I was
right,
nervous.
yes.
Like, well, okay, well, rent's going to be due. And I was fortunate that I did have some money in my savings account. And I pretty much said, okay, once it gets below this number, I'll go back to waitressing until I get my business to where I wanted to go. And I was actually fortunate enough that the month that I said, okay, this is by the end of this month, I'm going to have to go back to waitressing. The first week of that month, I got my first paid client. So I was really, really fortunate in that sense. And ever since there, it really started to spiral from word of mouth.
Incredible, incredible. And with that, what sort of mindset did you have to adopt? Because you were now moving away from being an employee to to become a business owner. Well, and these two things, they have got different mindset.
Hmm. Yes, they do. I was a little bit fortunate in the sense that towards the end of being an employee, I started to really heavily focus on mindset work to kind of pull me out of that misery.
Right.
So I was already waking up an hour earlier than usual each morning to do a 20-minute meditation. I was actually doing one of those Deepak Chopra and Oprah Winfrey 21-day meditation challenges.
Awesome, awesome.
Yeah, and I would go for a walk on the beach before work. So when I switched over to becoming a business owner, as tempted as I was to just sleep in until whatever time, watch Netflix until the wee hours of the morning, I really tried to stick to that routine.
Right.
And during that routine, started to work through some of the fears that come up with being a business owner.
Incredible, incredible. I love the fact that you recognize right earlier on how important it was or it is to work on your mind if you're to succeed. And obviously, now you're doing well in your business. All those time, you were working on your mind is beginning to pay off. It's one thing that often, new business owners ask is do you have to have a mentor when you're getting started? What would you say about that?
I am all for having a mentor or coach when getting started. I actually did not hire my first coach until about a year into my business.
Right.
But during that whole first year, I did have a mentor. I did have a community that I did bounce those ideas off of, that I did work through some of those issues that come up. And I think probably one of the harder realities I learned moving into the second year of my business is some of the bigger mentors I looked up to, more of like the nationally known mentors that I've never had a conversation with or never spoke on the phone with. Really, as I started to learn more about their businesses, that kind of glass wall shattered, and I realized a lot of it is sales and marketing, and the biggest mentors were actually the ones I could pick up the phone and call and talk to, not these kind of unattainable figures like I once thought.
Beautiful said. I think I had the same thing when we were starting, because you have these people that you look up to. And they are well polished. They've been in the business for a long time and they know how to market, they know how to touch all those hot buttons. But like you say, the real people to help you are the people close to you, people
Mm-hmm.
who may be a step ahead, in the journey, but are also doing fairly well. So, how did you identify the people you to hang out, with when you were getting started as a business owner?
I think initially what I did, it wasn't necessarily even people that were in the same realm as me. It was
Right.
usually people that were also struggling with very similar issues as I was. So they were struggling with figuring out their marketing messages. They were struggling to figure out how to get press that actually reached their target audience.
Right.
And I had to be really clear on what it was I was seeking, because otherwise, if I was kind of trying to go after some of those more unattainable mentors, I just got fogged by kind of the chaos and clutter that's on the internet.
Right.
And that kind of comparison and perfection paralysis would really set in. So, really looking at the people, like you said, that are one step or two steps ahead of me, and they freshly remember what it was like.
Yes, yes, and they can give you up-to-date information, that is not outdated.
Exactly.
The real strategy that works in your industry. I'm all for mentors, and I think if you want to get to success much faster, find somebody who has done what you want to do and follow them. Follow their footsteps, because success leaves clue.
Absolutely.
Continuing with the subject of having mentors, at what point did you transition from having one mentor to maybe having two or three mentors?
I actually think it was a little bit of the reverse, where I started off with, kind of like 5 or 6 mentors. And then as I moved further along in my business, I started to narrow it down to more specific or targeted mentors. Because at first I was just casting a really wide net. I didn't know what I was doing. I was trying to learn from everybody and soak up a sponge from as many people as possible. And then as I moved further along, and I started to surpass some of those people, I started to realize that, okay, so this is where I need to target my energy now. I'm going to learn from this person and become a master with this person, and then I'll go choose a new one. Because otherwise, if you're trying to have a lot, it can just start to become super confusing about where to go next or what to focus your efforts on that week.
Incredible. I love the way you've tackled that one. Now let's talk about the major breakthroughs you've had with Millennial as a Millennial business consultant. When did you have that massive break? Maybe in business sense, or in marketing sense, as per se.
Um, hmm. I'm not, I don't know if I have had kind of this massive break. It's hard for me. I've really looked at my success based off of how my clients have succeeded or seeing them implement the recommendations I've given them. So for me, the biggest breakthrough has really just been seeing the changes made to optimizing their websites or getting the phone calls or text messages that they've reached one of their goals. So it's kind of like a bunch of little breakthroughs kind of
Yeah.
led to this
Yes.
really big feeling of just like, okay, I'm doing what I wanted to do. I'm helping people get the results I hope to help them get.
Beautiful, beautiful. In our previous conversation, you were mentioning that after the first year, you narrowed what it is that you wanted to focus on, and that was one of those things that was, like a milestone in you. Would you share with our audience about that journey?
Yeah, and I guess that was actually one of the big breakthroughs also for me. So my first year in business, when I was writing out that really lengthy curriculum, I was focusing on so many topics. I
Right.
was thinking about careers. I was helping people with businesses. I was helping people with grocery shopping, working out, time management, finance. I just had my fingers in so many different pots because I had really no idea where I wanted to focus my efforts. I wasn't totally sure where I'd be able to provide the most results for people because I had so many passions and so many interests.
Right.
And so during that first year, I really taught that curriculum. I went to local businesses and would rotate through 12 weeks and spend about 2 weeks on each topic during those 12 weeks. And during that time, it was really great because I got to hear the feedback from people saying, "Oh, I really like that group. Oh, I really like that group. I like that workshop." And I started to narrow my focus down, and I realized at a certain point that I couldn't keep up with being an expert in so many topics.
Right.
And I had to kind of take a step back from my business model at that time, and that's actually when I hired a business coach to help me kind of narrow my focus and rebrand everything. And now I really try to focus solely on career and business coaching for millennials, but I also do a lot with time management and productivity because obviously, if you're trying to find a job, you need to find the extra time in your day if you are currently working. And if you're
Right.
launching a business, you always need more hours in the day.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Hours seem never to be enough during the day.
Hmm.
Now, if you were talking to somebody who is getting started, maybe not in a millennial business as a consultant or in any business, and they're where you were back then when you wanted to be an expert in almost everything, what would you say to them as one? Secondly, what should they do so that they get ahead in their business endeavor?
Ooh, I'd probably say two things to them.
Right.
One being, make sure that you're still keeping some sort of work-life balance. Most of us that start our own businesses do it because we want some sort of flexibility and freedom that we weren't previously getting as an employee. And I
Right.
think one of the biggest traps or pitfalls early business owners fall into is working 24/7, nonstop. And then all of a sudden they're totally miserable in their business, which isn't, that's obviously not the goal.
No.
So,
Yeah, actually, I'll tell you a funny story. Actually, when I started, this is fun. I will make you laugh. Rachel, I was at a networking event, and as you do, you just go and meet people, and you introduce yourself. Hey, I'm Yeukai, and all that. So I did my part, and then this guy came to me and said, "You know what? Well, I shall call him Ben in this case, and he said, hi, I'm Ben. I'm a CEO. And, I went on to say, hey, congratulations, you're running things. If you're a CEO, you're doing something. And say, no, no, you don't understand. I'm a chief of everything. That certainly made me laugh. And I remember back then looking at it, actually, that's what I am. Because when I
Mhm.
was starting, I managed everything from finance, from the legal papers. I was the salesperson. I was the marketer, everything.
Mhm.
And there is no need for that, especially when you learn the art of delegating. Anyway,
Mhm.
that's my story for you. What you mentioned just reminded me of that story.
Yeah, it's true. I think once you get to a point where you are able to delegate things, it can be really hard for a lot of business owners to kind of let the grass go and put their trust into others, but it's going to provide so many rewards because you get to really go back to focusing on whatever your truest value is or your truest passions are. So if you hate legal papers, hire a lawyer to deal with it. If you hate web design, hire a graphic designer or web designer. You don't need to hold on to everything as your business continues to grow.
Incredible. Now let's jump on to your model of a business. If you were to start all over again today, what would you do differently?
I think I would probably, because my biggest time suck early on was definitely managing social media.
Right.
And even managing my mailing list. And I was spending a lot of time in Facebook groups with other business owners, and there was a lot of noise and a lot of people saying, use this, use MailChimp, use this, use that. And so I started doing what the most common things were, and I would get so frustrated, having to go back and or things weren't syncing right, technology issues, whatever it was. And then I started to realize, like, just because everyone else is using it doesn't doesn't mean it's the right solution for me. So if I could go back all over
That's
again,
right.
I would start with really a content management strategy. So planning out my social media posts 60 or 90 days in advance and just automating that using tools like either Buffer or Hootsuite. And I would definitely, especially with the mailing list, find the right solution for me, because MailChimp was not the answer for me. I had so many issues. And yeah.
Incredible. And what sort of things that you would do more of?
I would probably spend more time doing market research and talking to my ideal client. I was fortunate because in all of the workshops I was doing, I do a few workshops each week in person where I did get to talk a little bit with people. But as I was really going through the rebrand of my business and narrowing my focus, I didn't, necessarily do a lot of A/B testing. I didn't necessarily really hear or have the time to really focus on, okay, this is my biggest struggle. This is the result I'm most desiring in my life. So, really just being able to talk to people more and in their language, understanding their thoughts, understanding their struggles.
Awesome, awesome. Rachel, I find it really, really interesting that you mentioned, spending more time on market research, because a lot of people that we get to talk with on this program, they say almost the same thing, be they in Canada, just now I was talking to a gentleman in Israel, in Tel Aviv, saying exactly the same thing. And I think the message to the business owners is, before you jump in, with both feet, you need to know exactly a bit better of your audience, what is it that they need, and have a very good profile of them, so that when you communicate with them, your message is really directed, and the people will, say, oh, he or she definitely know about me.
You want your clients to be able to self-identify and see how you're solving their problem, you know, really easily, probably within the first few seconds of visiting your website.
Absolutely, absolutely. Let's talk about the thing that you would do less of. If you were starting your business consultant, what would you not do much?
I don't really know. I've been really fortunate that other than the social media time suck, I've think I've done a pretty good job of delegating my time where it's brought me the biggest returns on my time investment, that is.
Beautiful. One thing I like about you, Rachel, which I'm hoping our audience will be able to pick up on, is how positive you are, and when you're talking about the language which you're using. In fact, if I was counting, you've been talking about how fortunate you've been. You see the positive in every situation. And I'm hoping that our audience will begin to copy that,
Oh,
because
thank you.
it's really one of those traits I've found among many high achievers. They see the positive in everything. When you ask them something negative, they turn it around and say, oh, actually, there is this side, and I can see that in you as well. Let's talk about the thing that you would do much faster. If you were to start all over again as a business consultant, or shall we be very precise, millennial business consultant, what would you do quicker? Not delay at all.
I would have started working on getting press a lot quicker.
Right.
That's something I did not touch at all my first year of business. And I actually really didn't start focusing on it until fairly recently, because again, like, I was so fortunate that everything in my small little community in my network just spread word of mouth. And now I'm starting to focus a little bit more this year. I'm working on creating some e-courses and creating more passive revenue streams. And so in order to do that, I'm trying to grow my more online network, my virtual network. And so that really does include a lot of online press.
Incredible, incredible. And what sort of strategies are you using with that, so that our audience may be able to say, oh, actually, if she's doing that, maybe I could try that.
Yeah, actually, you and I touched a little bit on this before hopping on to here. But when you go to my website, the first thing you'll see is me trying to collect your email address and really starting to build that mailing list to let people know, oh, hey, this is coming out, or just offering a lot of free advice, free tips. I do talk a lot about the mistakes I've made and how to turn those into positive situations because I do believe everything's a learning experience for all of us. And I think another really big thing has just been looking at what publications my target audience reads, trying to get articles or mentions in those. And really, when I sat down and I said, okay, I want these 10 publications to be able to put on my website, saying that these are, this is credible, this is where you can find me, these are the people I'm speaking to, and I was able to reach all my goals for that in a fairly short period of time. It did take a lot of work, but really just having a game plan of where do you want to be seen, and then finding a way to be seen there.
Beautiful, beautiful. Where should business owners, especially those who are starting, should focus their efforts if they want to succeed, both short term and long term?
I would say in the short term, I know we kind of touched on this already. In the short term, really just find your ideal audience, talk to them, do that market research, figure out what it is their struggle or problem, and really create your marketing messages around how you're going to solve that for them. Don't really worry about, getting really big online or social media, depending on obviously your business type. But for me, I'm really happy I spent that first year focusing on building a following in my community before jumping all over the internet, because it's such a big market. There's so much noise, and that does take a little bit more time, and that can feel discouraging at points, especially as a new business owner. So get traction where you can reach out and touch people first, and then start to grow and expand.
Well put. Let's talk about the time management. I know you're a very busy lady. You've got so many things, demanding your attention. How do you manage your time to be effective, to even find some time to have family time, which I know for many business starters, it's not very easy to juggle all of these at once.
Yeah. I would say that I just schedule everything. If you look at my calendar, it's absolutely hysterical. And I've had a few clients look at my calendar and they just laugh. I put everything on there, from working out, from leg day at the gym, to cooking dinner, to washing or doing my hair, to obviously business related things. And everything has a place and time. I really try to make sure I work in chunks. So I don't check my email on the fly throughout the day. I schedule, usually 15 to 30-minute chunks in my day to, okay, I'm going to get on, I'm going to check my emails, I'll respond to my emails. Research tells us that people that check their emails on the fly often waste about 15 minutes per email because they stop doing what they're doing, kind of chaotically respond to this email, and usually they end up misresponding, and then they finish that, and then they have to remember and go back to and restart what they were doing before. So really working in finite chunks. Okay, I'm going to do social media management for 30 minutes each morning and respond to any of my followers from the previous day. And then from there, I'm going to go ahead and check the accounts. From there, I'm going to go ahead and meet with clients. From there, I'm going to go ahead and finish these publications that I'm working on, or these articles. And just really making sure that when you're focusing on any task, you're solely focusing on that task.
Wonderful, wonderful. Rachel, as we're coming toward the end for a time together here, I'm so keen to know exactly what you do, because I know many of our audience right now are very keen to find you online or to get connected with you and get to know about the services you provide. Can we spend some time looking at that at this point?
Yeah. Well, the easiest way to connect with me would be on my website, rachelritlop.com, RACHELRIT as in Tom, LOP. You can also usually find me the most biggest social media platform I use is Twitter, which is also just my name. And then as far as the packages I offer, I usually offer two packages, and those can obviously be custom tailored to meet the unique needs of each of my